It's time for Cats Talk Wednesday. Small town and big city joined forces. Vinny Hardy of Lynch, Kentucky, and Terry Brown of Louisville, Kentucky, team up to give you free-flowing, laid-back sports talk. Focus on Kentucky Wildcats, as well as pertinent information in the NBA, NFL, and Major League Baseball.
Back at it, another Wednesday evening, Cats Talk Wednesday, BS3 Network. Vinny Hardy here. TB is out under the weather. If y'all know his Twitter, send him a little good vibe tweet. But we got friend of the show back, JR the Bossman. Bossman show covers the Atlanta Hawks, all things NBA. And JR, man, the burning question last time you were on was would you be working beyond April the 19th? And come to find out, the answer is no.
Vinny, I had that sneaking suspicion, and I ain't gonna sit up here and lie to you, Vinny. You got the overtime. It was tired. I was getting kind of worried. Then the Miami Heat went 5 or 6 from 3 in overtime and did the job for me, put me on vacation. So guess what, Vinny? I'm off until September 29th, my brother.
September 29th.
It's 5 months and 10 days of no work.
Man, hey, I can't be mad at that. I can't be mad at that. Now here's my thing though. The last, was it Budenholzer? Was that when the Hawks made the Eastern Conference Finals? Was that?
Nah, that was the year they fired Lloyd Pierce and they named Milne interim coach. That's 21-22.
Then they went to the conference finals that year.
The fluke year.
Okay, so if the stars were to align and you have to cover a season into mid-May again, you won't know how to act, man.
I'll be a very disgruntled young brother.
What if we had a run to the finals and you had to work till June? I mean, only 3 months off.
I'll be depressed, Vinny. I'm like, I'm used to being off in April.
That's what I was thinking about that. I said, man, if they ever get it together and start making deep runs, JR is gonna be one upset individual. It's gonna be cutting into your time, man.
Look. You know, I'm in Memphis right now. I'm here at the Hyatt Centric. I'm gonna say where I'm at. Don't matter. Pull up on me. Game 3, 4 here in Memphis. Making some extra money, Vinny, so I can afford this first trip to the islands, Vinny. If I have to touch my main money, brother.
There you go. That's smart too, man. Yes. Is a change of scenery gonna be enough to help these Grizzlies? Because it's been rough down there in Oklahoma City, man.
Brother, they should have lost on Friday against the Mavericks and been done. This is embarrassing. And it's been a bad matchup for the Grizzlies all year long, Vinny. All year long. Bad matchup for them. So for the Grizzlies, fire Taylor Jenkins, 9 games left to go. Him and Zach Kleiman was beefing. But really, he had a flyer roster too. Taylor Jenkins had flaws as well, brother. But this is a bad matchup for Memphis. And, you know, people like, well, you don't turn down the playoffs. I get all that, but to get embarrassed by 51 points on each Sunday in the Great Vinny, I'm going to see what happened. They played late night Friday night against Dallas in Memphis. Had to fly to play 1 p.m. Eastern time game against the Thunder. So they were tired. They remember they had to play also, you know, Denver on Sunday. They go to play Golden State. So, you know what I'm saying? So all them things, Memphis was tired, but it's still 51 points, brother. And it's a bad matchup for them. And it's just time for the Grizzlies to reassess. And I'm going to be honest with you, brother. Desmond Bane ain't a 2 or a 3, and he's overpaid at 5 years, 197. Jaren Jackson Jr. is, he's out a main star in my opinion. He's more of a 3 than a 2. And we got to get my man John Morant. Whoa, throw the grenade, baby. You got to get him going for good again, Vinny.
Yeah, stuff can fall apart quick, can't it? I mean, you know, you think you have something built and
yes, Vinny. In this league, a year's a long time, my brother. A year's a long time in this league. Look at your Rockets, man. Look at your Rockets. As great as they've been this year, them old dudes are probably gonna beat them in 6 games. Probably them old dudes will probably beat them because they're not ready. It's crunch time? Who do you go to score the ball in Houston?
That's the question.
That's why you need to maybe bring in a Kevin Durant or Booker if that's an option for you, or get a true number one there who can lead them boys till they're ready. Because this thing can work in the regular season, Vinny, but playoffs, it slows down. Half-court defense, possessions matter. Golden State can go to Butler and Curry, get a basket whenever they want to. In Houston, nobody knows. In Memphis, you can go to John Morant. But if he's on, you know what I'm saying? Okay, so you got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Jalen Williams to do it for him. And off the bench, they're so deep. So, Vinny, my thing to you is, man, when you build teams out, my brother, you have to have at least a top two, a big two, who you can go to in crunch time to get a basket. Yeah. And in Atlanta, we do have somebody to go to. He's small, but we got somebody to go to. But his other flaws make the team be mediocre. Let's be real, And I know how we joke about my vacation but it really doesn't hit again. Like, he had to play 20-some straight minutes, and then he's out of gas because nobody gets to go to, right? You know what I mean? So Miami can go to Hero and Adebayo.
Mm-hmm.
And Mitchell stepped up too for Miami. In Atlanta, you know where the ball's going.
Yeah. So, I mean, where do they go from here? I mean, we talk purgatory every year for them. You get a young rookie in there, who does well. Do you still continue to, build around Young? You got a new GM in here now. Did he come in the same time as Snyder, or he came in with the previous?
He was in the front office before Snyder got there.
Okay.
He came around in 22, and then after they made the Murray trade, Trevor Singles like, I'm out of here, because that was between Landry Fields Vinny. This is not something I'm saying. Something is being real. In Atlanta, there's too many cooks in our kitchen in the front office. I don't care. It's public knowledge. I'm not saying that nobody else don't know. So I ain't in trouble saying this. In Atlanta, there's too many cooks in the kitchen, in the front office. And it'd be Tony Ruster, the owner. His son gets involved as well. You got Ansi Sala now, who's Landry Fields' friend, who now is the GM of the team now. Chris Grant, a former guy from the Cavs, former GM. So, like, it's a lot of cooks in the kitchen in Atlanta. And Quinn Snyder has a say too as well. So, and they talk about Landry Fields on some decisions, with his decisions, some were above his head. And for all joking and kidding aside, he was scapegoat to a degree, because nothing is approved about the wrestlers saying okay to it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they jump hiring a president of basketball operations, maybe somebody Elton Brand. Interesting. Okay. Where's he at right now in Philadelphia?
Yeah.
Okay. But the problem, Vinny, in Atlanta, the problem's the problem, buddy. Are you a Trae Young central team going forward, or are you not? Have you maxed out on the Trae Young experience, or have you not? And do you pay him, Vinny, 4 years, $229 on the extension? In the new world we're in, Vinny, we in the apron world.
Apron.
You know what I mean, buddy? Hey, West TV boy, that apron. You know what I'm saying? Uh-huh. So like, y'all got Jalen Johnson, 5 years, 150. You got my man Daniels needs an extension as well. Then you extend Trae Young, you in luxury tax. So you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
The Hawks are heading towards financial hell again, man. It's no fault of their own. It's just the fact that if you max out Trae Young at 4 years to 29, that's 30% of your cap.
Yeah.
Then Jalen Johnson, 5 years, 150. You're gonna give that's an extension. Then you got Conwell making 14-some million. Then Man's 16 million. So like it adds up fast, getting into that luxury tax line. And in Atlanta, guess what we don't do in Atlanta? We don't pay the tax in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
some hard decisions had to be made to cut cost.
Yeah.
So when maybe ownership decides to, now granted, I ain't gonna pay luxury checks for a team that's a playing team either. I ain't saying do that, but I'm just saying
right.
if you give a good enough team, well, at what point do you pay the taxes to see what you can do?
Mm-hmm. Now, you said there's already been a new GM hired. Is he an interim GM?
No, he's Arnson Solo's assistant GM.
Assistant? They promoted. Okay.
Yes, you know what went on there without me saying it.
So, is the philosophy even going to change all that much when you're,
well,
is he got a new vision that they don't know, or, can he spread his wings? And
he's more of a cap. Hey, brother, he was a cap guy in Golden State. Honestly, was a cap guy in Golden State. You know what I'm saying? He ain't like a manager type of dude. You know what I mean? He ain't that. He was the cap guy in Golden State. Now, granted, they paid him a bunch of money to come here. Okay. You know what I'm saying? That's not no joke. But you want to hire president of basketball operations and maybe an Elton Brand, somebody like that. I mean, the problem is the problem. Are we Trae Young? We going on a Trae Young path? We're going down a new path. So, and the money is the money. The apron's the apron. So it's gonna be tricky to see. You got young players, Ricochet, Daniels, Okongwu. You got young gun Mo Gay stepping up this year. So you got a good young core. But do you have 27-year-old Trae Young still be a part of the future? That's the question. And I know what my answer would be, and I ain't gonna say, I know what my answer would be, but I ain't gonna say it live on BSU tonight. But you can infer what my thoughts would be on that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, this been 27. So what? How many years of this body of work? 5, 6, 7?
It's year 7.
Wow.
Year 7.
Yeah, and well, I mean, we know what you have, and you mentioned the small guard. That's the same thing Cleveland gonna have to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, because think about it, Vinny. People talk about, well, Cleveland can beat Boston. Not really, because they're gonna throw Tatum and Brown at Garland and Mitchell. And say, my man DeAndre Hunter, who's a friend of mine, DeAndre, Dean Wade, Max Strauss, can y'all beat us?
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna clamp you with Tatum and Brown. Can the rest of y'all beat us? We clamp them two down.
Mm-hmm.
That's the question. So for Cleveland, losing to Boston is no shame, but I just don't think they can do it.
Yeah, that's because it's gonna be, like you said, different than the regular season. They were rolling but they took the season serious from Boston, right? I think in the regular season, and had the big cushion, number 1 seed by a lot, but totally different now, as you always say. Playoffs a whole different animal.
Matchups, Vinny. It ain't about just we just gonna play tonight. We on back to back. Because think about it, Vinny, in the regular season, you don't know what the circumstances are. Is it back to back, 4 and 5 nights, travel, not travel, load management? So I don't give a caught up in regular season games like that. Really. Now if the score is like Memphis and OKC, I can make holds water. But when you don't have Porzingis or somebody's out or nah. But Boston's top 6, so you go top 6 with Al Horford and come up with 7 Pritchard and Hauser off the bench, Luke Cornett, they just don't clamp you down.
Yeah.
So them Garland and Mitchell, they gonna switch everything on you. You ain't gonna be able to run your actions that you want to run. So I see it as a bad matchup too. Same way with Milwaukee, Indiana, Vinny. Bad matchup. Pacers running gun, 5 out. Bucks old and slow. They over the hill, brother. They over the hill, man. So, and the question is, who they trade first this summer? Dame or Giannis?
I mean, and Dame was. I mean, he knew he was already older, but Giannis kind of got older, just really like quick. You snap your finger, and he's kind of. I mean, he's still explosive and still doing, but it's just life, like you said, a year, life comes at you fast.
Vinny, also, if New York Knicks lose, Tom Thibodeau's in trouble. You heard it here first.
Yeah.
If they lose, that dude can be gone in New York.
Detroit been outplaying them up and down, I mean, the first game they outplayed them, and they the big run and all that, and then here you go, game 2, the same thing. The Knicks doing all this, making all these plays, and still down 10 or 12. Uphill battle, and they're at home both of these games.
No doubt, and like you said, man, been home in the Gardens rocking. I'm gonna send a shout out to my special friend from Detroit. You know who you are. Detroit basketball from Detroit. My special friend from Detroit. Shout you out. Keep doing your thing. But yeah, man, like, look, that's a young team, brother. They hungry, brother. They hungry. The Knicks only play a certain way. Thibodeau is stubborn. Vinny, what about Tom Thibodeau? You don't see him making adjustments. And he's playing drop coverage. Who kills drop coverage? Cade Cunningham's, Trae Young's of the world, Doncic's of the world. He don't stop. That's why we lost to them. They lost to the Hawks the first time and then on that fluke run. He let Trae Young had on Reggie Bullock and played on drop coverage. Doc Rivers, who was another guy, no justice, let Trae Young had on Ben Simmons. Don't put him in action. So he's so antiquated and stubborn. He's running 90s stuff, brother. In 2025. And he don't play his bench. Cam Payne from Memphis, where I'm at right now, played hella fire great in game 1. He only plays 4 minutes in game 2.
Just all over the place.
Yeah. He's so stubborn. He sticks to his guys. We're going to play harder. We're going to play harder. Come on, man. Jesus effing Christ is what he always says. He says things like Jesus effing Christ. That's what he always say. You see it on sidelines all the time. So, yeah, brother. We go see, brother. I just don't know, brother. But if Detroit wins, he's in trouble, brother.
Yeah, that's first playoff win since 2008 for Detroit, man. So that's congrats to JB Bickerstaff. His dad Bernie's from my hometown in Kentucky, Benham, Kentucky, Harlan County. So cool to see JB doing that in Detroit, and they've been waiting a long time for it, man.
John Blair Bickerstaff.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We got our second guest in the green room. Friend of the show, been on as many times as you have. Love talking NBA with him, out of Philly. Just eloquent. When it comes to writing, man, just the way the pen hits the paper when he writes. Talking about Michael Tillery, written for so many different outlets, more than we can count. But Mike, appreciate you coming back, joining us as well, sir. How you doing?
What's up, good brothers? How y'all doing?
How you doing, Mike? Good to see you,
brother. Man. Nice to meet you virtually.
Yes, sir. Same here, brother.
Y'all know each other? Y'all cross paths with JR, Mike?
I'm sure we probably have.
I've probably seen him at the what's it called, Wells Fargo when I'm up there. I've seen him at Wells Fargo when I'm up there, man.
Probably. Sure.
That's it.
South Philadelphia, what I call Mike, almost New Jersey.
Don't say that here.
Almost New Jersey. This is what I call it when I go over to the old South Side complex over there.
Yeah. That's how I saw it as a kid. Nowadays, you say something like that here, you might get smacked with an Eagles jersey.
Let's get the old young bulls up there. Let's get them young bulls up there.
It's incredible, man. I mean, they show it in the news, man. Sometimes 300, 400 kids are just running through the streets. 3 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
It's wild. It's wild here right now.
So that ain't how y'all used to do it, I take it. So changed a little bit. Times changed a little bit.
Time has changed.
For the worse.
Yes.
Mike, man, since last had you on, we saw Mike Malone get fired. We saw Taylor Jenkins get fired. In all your years, had you seen anything like that to end the season for playoff teams, man?
No. It's ridiculous. I don't understand. Look at Denver now. Denver, I think window has closed. And it's a shame because they arguably have one of the best players of all time on their squad doing Oscar Robertson things nightly. This is a new world. People who haven't played basketball or haven't played the sport are up top in the front office making basically analytical moves, and based on analytics. What happened with Mike Malone? I've been in locker rooms, his locker rooms, where, you could hear him in the coach's locker room either berating his coaches or a player. When I coached, that's how I was, and I told the parents, look, this is how it's going to be. If you can't understand that some discipline has to be handed down in an authoritative way, I don't know what to tell you. Your kid's not going to play, So with Mike Malone, him being jettisoned like that, coming off NBA championship, 2 years ago, it is extraordinary, in this day and age, we don't know what goes on in the locker rooms anymore unless you're in them. The way that the NBA has the media tiers set up now, most writers don't have locker room access. So the ones who are in the locker room are beholden basically to the protocols of their outlet. So there aren't specific questions being asked anymore. When somebody like me can kind of slide in, I can get what I need to get. But we're at a time now where I feel like I can walk into an NBA locker room 5 minutes, 10 minutes later, and my question won't be asked. That is very problematic now because it's all about clickbait. It's all about getting that 5-second sound bite, that's going to go viral, and what have you. And of course, we as media members have to change with the times. But I can just call up a player, man, get what I need from him. Hopefully, I can go through certain PR who can connect me with coaches and trainers and the like to try to get the real stories that happen in the NBA. But I'm sorry that Mike Malone is gone because he's a good basketball man. I didn't agree with everything he said, and that's not really a disclaimer, but he was the type of coach that could take a team to the next level. Now, what has happened, as everybody is saying, the locker room grew weary of him, so it was time to change the culture. I don't know if that is more a move of impatience and desperation, given that the Nuggets aren't really talked about as, that top Western squad, but they made a move. They got to stick to it, and they could have an early exit in the playoffs.
And JR, you and I talked about it because this happened pretty much right before you came on with Malone getting shown the door and Calvin Booth. And I asked you then, we talked about it. I said, it's not even fair to David Adelman. I mean, hey man, here you go. Here's a shot. Game 80. Here you go. So Mike, your thoughts too. I mean, son of a coach, I know, looking for an opportunity, just like a lot of aspiring assistants, but that can't be the scenario that you envision, even on an interim basis, just getting thrown in right at the very tail end of the season.
Look at Memphis coach, Benny. Look at how he's getting over his head. Look at Memphis coach.
Unbelievable. So I don't, I mean, that's not even fair to David Adelman to me, just to be put into that spot.
It's not.
And that's his audition. We're going to look at you. We're going to evaluate you. In game 80 in the first round series, when it's just chaos, here's what we're going to, see what your coaching chops are. That's, man.
And Vinny, I want to speak to something Michael said. Now, I don't have this problem in Atlanta because it's the Hawks, but with other teams, there is this tiering. Like you're a tier 1, a tier 2. You can't get in locker rooms. This is everything changed since COVID. My birthday was COVID day. March 11th, 2020 is my birthday. That's COVID day. So that's when things got shut down. I remember Vince Carter made his last shot for the Hawks that day. That's New York Knicks. That was the last time they were the same, right? So to Mike's point, man, like with started like in Memphis, I'm tier 2 in Memphis, right? Not tier 1. Locker room access. I'm here for game 3 and 4. So I can only go to the press conferences in the assigned room, not the locker room. I can usually do it in Atlanta, right? So I'm gonna have to talk to people from OKC in Memphis, like around the court doing pregame or in the media room, and catch a dude in the hallway or something, maybe going off the court from warm-ups to kind of get a feel for what it is. So now you kind of have to maximize your access to get what you get through being on court in the pregame warm-ups, the media room, catching dudes in the back, talking to people who you trust in the media. So to write my story, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna network doing pregame a lot Thursday and Saturday to get what I need to get from OKC and Memphis. OKC's PR team is pretty tight-lipped and don't want you to talk to their players. So I'm going to really do a lot of work, how I move to get what I need to get from OKC. Memphis, I can get a little bit more from Memphis's dudes. I know them. Taylor Jenkins was in Atlanta. Some of the guys on his staff I know personally. So it's going to be easier. But to Mike's point, since post-COVID, access for me in the NBA is tiered based on 1 or 2. And then Atlanta, I ain't got that problem in Atlanta, but when I go to other places, it's going to be tier 2, or we will get you in there, no locker room access, that kind of stuff. So, yes, access post-COVID, same way what it was pre-COVID, to Mike's point, to get what you got to get, what you got to get. I wanted to talk to that point because I know firsthand what he's talking about with Philadelphia and other places that he go cover games at.
Yeah, and what I began doing post-COVID was like if you're ever in DC, there's a long hallway leading to the bus. So, I would talk to, say, LeBron, on the way to the bus. That's where you can get a lot of dudes. Just run up to them, put that mic in their face or camera or whatever and speak until that PR dude just comes out of the woodwork and shoos you along. But it's very important that we remain, stellar when it comes to reporting, and not do it in a way where we are appearing to mimic, whoever was in the locker room and using their quotes. Like I try not to use anyone's quotes.
I use none of them, Mike. None of them.
Right. Good man, because once you begin to do that, then you'll become quiet in a locker room setting, and you don't really have to ask any questions. And that's what a lot of writers seem to do. My quotes in Philadelphia are all over the place, and I never get credit for them.
Oh wow! Cool. Now, are there actually different credentials? Like, you got a tier 1 credential, and then they actually checking. Oh, you're not.
Oh yeah. If you don't have an LR on your credentials, yes, you can't get in.
Okay.
Yeah. So some will say LR, or some will say, or they give you a band.
A band. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. So that's how they know you tier 1 or tier 2. So your credentials going to be the same, but in Atlanta you got to have LR on yours. In Memphis you got to have LR on yours or a band, depending on what they do that day.
And it's, what's really a shame is the where I found the players most comfortable is doing those morning shoot-arounds, those practices, and since the NBA has restricted access to those practices, to your point, JR, about the tiers, it's really unfortunate because these major outlets and they aren't even going in there to get the stories that are in depth. They're just getting, superficial types of things to remain relevant with the organizations, so they don't lose their credentials. So you have these writers who are basically, being coached by their editors and their publishers to only say certain things and only get, a certain story. And then everybody's relying on, the X feeds and, the TikToks and to get the sound bites and also the clips for the next day. But the players are most comfortable sitting on the stands. You got a mic in their face and they'll talk to you for as long as you're allowed to speak to them. And that's where you gain trust as a reporter when you're speaking to a specific athlete. When you have those almost intimate times to where, you can ensure that the public is getting their true voice.
No doubt, Mike, and to that point, Vinny, and I'm gonna tell you something, Vinny, like in Memphis, I know this. The radio deals with tier 1 don't show up. The main stations in town don't show up to the games. In Atlanta, you may have 1 or 2 guys to say the fans show up, and 99 the game is the flagship. So a few people are from there. But a lot of time these team people who are tier 1 TV stations don't show up. So it's just limited. Maybe it's the beat reporter, the ESPN.com guy, athletic person, or SI person. They're tier 1. Everybody else like tier 2. If you're radio or something different, does something different, or you're a podcast, something like that. Yep. So but I said post COVID, it's changed. Pre-COVID in Atlanta and Memphis, where we went to, everybody, if you was credentialed, you was allowed to go in the locker room. You was credentialed. If you was credentialed for that game, you was good to go in there. But now they got these media rooms. Now they bring the players to the podium, or say you only got podium room access, you can't go in the locker room. So that's what I'm saying. Mike said, man, like for me, I with being around the Hawks as long as I have, man, there's a lot of former Hawks in the NBA, right? Some people getting mad, but like, what you doing? Well, I know Al Horford. He's a former Hawk. You know what I'm saying? I know Torian Prince is a former Hawk. Doc Rivers is a former Hawk. So Joe Plenty on that staff. Dave Yeager is a former Grizzly coach. So also you have to tell these PR people, I know them from that time in Atlanta. So calm down, relax. You know what I'm saying? Indiana, Lloyd Pierce, former coach. Manny Miller with the Lakers. So like, calm down. I know these brothers. He know me. Obviously, he cool. Probably when he was sitting work to me. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So you have to. That's getting for these PR people, man. But Mike, great point, man. And it's crazy how we still doing our job, man. Trying to get our questions in there best I can, making it do with the access that we have. Still putting out good content. And like I said, I don't want nobody else to quote because a lot of these people ask questions. I'd be like, do you even watch the game?
Right.
Do you know what you're looking at?
Yeah, that's a major concern for me because it seems like, and I'm not trying to call anybody out nationally, but when I watch different news shows, you're basically hearing the local voice in their analysis of a certain athlete or game or coach or what have you, and I'm saying to myself, they didn't watch the game. They're just going to the local newspapers, the local outlets, and getting the story, and that's it. Now I understand that you have a lot of responsibilities when you're on TV or what have you in terms of research. The production room, where they're expressing and discussing what's going to be on air, but that still doesn't preclude you to basically become a reader because you're not getting the atmosphere of a game. The atmosphere of the game, I think, is what's being missed now. How does the crowd feel? What did the crowd add to the game? What former, like JR was saying, what former players, trainers, even owners are walking around the stadium, that are just walking around, So when you are able to speak to them, and even a fan, that's one thing I did when I was at Slam. I made sure that I talked to, again, a coach, the radio guy, a trainer, maybe a consultant that was a former player just walking around, and also got a fan. You want to get the fans' perspective about what they saw. And if you saw a fan that had their 5 or 7-year-old kid, it was gold because I got a chance to talk to those kids as well. And, to put their names in print, it's something they could, stand on, be happy to see and talk about to their classmates. So again, the intimacy is being taken. I remember, it's crazy. Your former PR dude, Dwayne Peavy, I was traveling to Lexington and I called him up and said, can I come talk to you? And he said, yeah, cool. Didn't ask any questions, didn't say, what is your assignment, this and that, and I really appreciate that because that was the first time I actually talked to him. I just decided if I was going to be there that I need to talk to the brother and make sure that a networking opportunity presented himself. And that's how your phone book just kind of explodes, the more people you talk to in your field.
That's awesome. So now when it's pre-game, pre-shoot around, when you used to have access to those and the guys are the most comfortable, y'all are there on the court. How much is just talking and building trust? How much do you use for what you need? What should you go for a certain ratio, or you just let the conversation happen? And because you obviously want to get what you need to get, but how do you,
Well, I'll take that one first, Benny. I'll take that one first, Mike, if you don't mind.
No, go ahead, man.
For me, I'm a radio dude, so I'm not forced to write an article per se. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going more so to build a relationship with a dude, so to get him on my radio show down the road. So build that trust with him. Where look, this dude cool. I said, brother, I don't want nothing from you, brother. I just want you to come on my show whenever you get a chance, and we can talk about your background, your wife of basketball, who you are. Dudes love talking about themselves, right? So it ain't always about the team. So I attacked from the point of I want to go talk to you and learn about you as a brother, and I'm a brother too. I play ball too, so we had that in common. I don't want nothing from you, brother. I ain't trying to get no. I'm not a reporter. I'm a radio dude. I talk. I'm not writing nothing about you. So whatever you say on the show is your narrative. It's not me making it. It's whatever you say. So that's how I approached it, Benny, and build that rapport with guys. So that's why a lot of older guys in the league respect me because they knew I ain't out to get them. I'm about just trying to build a relationship with you. If you're on my radio show, we chop it up and we talk about it. You know what I'm saying? Like example, Chauncey Billups and I had a relationship for years. They was coach of the Trailblazers. So I want to come on my show. It's a text, not a call. It's a text. Yo, Chance, are you good? Relationship. Taylor Jenkins, that's a text from being with the Hawks. Michael Malone, respect over the years. That's a text. You know what I'm saying? So there's some examples just building rapport people. And they trust you, knowing who you are. Like the Clippers, Larry Drew, Jeff Van Gundy, Dante Jones, Ty Lue, all people I have relationships with. You know what I'm saying? Relationship with Bogey, former Hawk player. You know what I'm saying? So just being able to be there, them intimate settings and practice shoot arounds, build a rapport, they see your face and know who you are, and they know what you're about, and they know what you're talking about. That's how I built trust to get guys to want to deal with me outside of the team sanctioned times.
That's a good way to do it. And what you said, those latter 2 points, what you about. Once they figure out what you're about, then that trust is gathered and it's tethered to you and that player. What I would do, and I would do this religiously, maybe I got OCD, I don't know, but I would put, 55 minutes on my recorder. This is when you didn't have to use your phone. You were using recorders. I put 55 minutes on that recorder, and I would make sure that every single second of those 55 minutes was used up. So, the dearly departed Kobe Bryant, for example, I have so much stuff of me just talking to him, kind of off the record because I didn't really use it for anything of the sort. But I was telling him, I said, I want to have some stuff that I can break out, once you're retired and the like. And, he really appreciated that because Kobe Bryant told me something before the Beijing Olympics that he basically said, I see everything in the moment. Like I don't step out of the moment. I don't talk about the future, the past, or anything of the sort because the moment is the most important. you know, and when, you know, he told me that, you know, I got chills. You know, I really got chills because it gave some context about his preparation, you know, daily, nightly, before the games, you know, what he ate, you know, and all kinds of things. What was he aspiring to do? But he would only really talk about that stuff after, you know, it concluded. You know, so what I'm doing is I go in and I run. I'm known for this. I run from locker room to interview anybody I can. You know, that last guy on the bench might have the best story of the night. You know, so I'm talking to him. You know, a lot of writers now are fearful to go up to talk to the superstars, and when they do that, I pounce like a cat. You know, pun intended. You know, because you're showing them that you are looking at them as a human. A lot of these players, the reason why they just kind of clam up when these inexperienced reporters, whether it be inexperienced in journalism or culture, you know, when you don't have the wherewithal to engage an athlete, he or she is not going to give you what you need. They're going to be very short answers and the like, you know. So again, you know, as Jared was saying, you're trying to build that rapport with these athletes, but you're traveling around the country and you only have a split second to get your question in. You better come hard. You know, you really better come hard because, you know, they were almost shun you. You know, I told professional sports long ago when all the snark was happening in 2010s, you know, and before that, you know, the players were eventually going to leave. They were going to go to their own blogs, and they would go to their websites. Then they went to social media. Now they have all types of platforms that they can talk to. They don't have to talk, you know, at the games as extensively as they were responsible to do, you know, earlier. The reason why all of this access is being restricted is the former, you know, players union head, you know, Michelle Roberts, you know, was very concerned about the treatment of athletes in terms of the questions. You know, she thought that a lot of media outlets were putting their athletes, you know, in a bad light and wanting them to respond unfavorably, you know, to their brand or their individual careers. You know, so I understand that. You know, I'm seeing like all over the country now where, you know, the locker room isn't, you know, you used to see locker room throngs. Now you're seeing almost like a playoff atmosphere where they're sitting, you know, at tables and taking questions from all the reporters. So, yeah, you know, you're really trying to go in now and to get not stuff for the game itself, but for a future reference. You know, then you can, you know, go back to it. You know, you can post it, you know, and people will understand the context of an athlete. Even when I did those long interviews that I did on the starting five, I made sure that every single word was added to that interview. You know, people call them unedited conversations and whatever. You know, it's what the actual player said. So when the player says something to you and they're very, you know, passionate about it, yet it doesn't, you know, get added to the print the next day, that's when your report gets ripped away. You know, because they're like, yo, you know, I said this to you. I thought you were going to use this. But your editor, you know, your producer, whatever, might throw it on the cutting room floor. And that's very unfortunate. Again, because they weren't there, so they did not understand the context of the actual game itself.
No doubt. And Vinny, I can speak to this too, like for Philadelphia. I can get Nick Nurse probably dealing with you all every day. It's not good to deal with. But he also gets me twice a year or whatever so he play you all. He'll give me something good because he don't see me every day. But he knows who I am. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. We had that rapport. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I can talk to Darvin Ham in the hallway, you know, Dave Yeager in the hallway about whatever, because he's Grizzlies head coach doing the gritty and grind days. Joe Prunty, and then coach of the Hawks, was on Milwaukee staff. But also, even a player, like, I give you an example, Mike and Vinny. Ja Moran, I have a report because He went to Murray State. I went to Tennessee State, the OVC.
Wow.
We can talk junk about that and have a report because, man, forget that TSU, forget Murray State. So we had that report because where we play with school at. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So you find little things, Vinny, you can connect with them on. Mm-hmm. And they were so job. I'm like, man. So tomorrow I'm gonna wear my TSU gear just to get at him.
Yeah,
he gonna like you. He gonna like that. I see you. Blah 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 blah. We gonna have our but that's the rapport we've built because of over this of him seeing me in Memphis and talking to him as a human being. Now this John Morant. People in Memphis are kind of scared of it. I'm not. I'm connected with the brother, as a man, on something we both have in common. So that's why I can go in places and find and reports like, who? But really, yeah, because unlike you, I'm not trying to get a story. I connected with this guy as a man, not as a something that means to an end.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's really appreciated. And I call that soul model stuff. And when the younger generation of writers who come up, or radio or podcasters, they'll see that example and they'll implement it into their type of process, and that's the good thing. A lot of coaches, you spoke about talking to coaches. A lot of coaches will use that writer that they know that they had that rapport with to really get a point out sometimes. And that is an underrated value to walking in a locker room when you know that coach is going to feel comfortable to say certain things to you that other writers are clamoring for, but just can't get it out of that coach because they're despondent or they don't have the means to connect outside of being a journalist. You have to have that skill. You have to know the voice inflection, when athlete or a coach is going to stop talking so you can get in. Because here in Philadelphia, if you don't cut in, your question will not get asked, or it's going to be asked by the next guy. So you got to be tough with it. I remember going to Cleveland. I spent like 3 months out in Cleveland, 2 consecutive years, that year that LeBron left, where it was basically a ghost town inside of the queue. But when we were talking to the players, during media access, there was always a pause before the next question, and I was like, what is this? Am I allowed to talk now? Since no one is talking, can I talk now? And I would dominate, pressures out there just because of that, to the point where guys like Windhorse or Mary Cabot, we're looking at me with a crazy eye. But I'm like, look, I got a job to do, and if you guys aren't going to talk, I'm trying to be respectful of the tier, the TV, the radio, the newspapers, and then all the independents or what have you. But if a question isn't going to be asked, then I'm going to make sure that I ask mine, because like JR said, you get in there, you might not see this coach but 2 times a year. You better ask the question that you have on your mind, or you're going to have some regrets.
Yeah.
No doubt. And Mike, I'm gonna say another example I'm gonna give, Vinny. Grant Williams. Me and him have a great report. He went to UT. I told him, I hate your little freaking song. TSU's better than UT. Y'all, our band better than y'all. Your little funky song sucks. Rocky Top will always be losers to me. Yeah. Good old losing top. Losing top 10. He'd be like, you always do that to me, man. But we had that rapport. I always get him on Rocky Top and be going to Tennessee State. So another thing, that rapport, right? We no matter what, we all gonna laugh about TSU, Tennessee, and me get on them with that little dumb song they sing up there. You know what I'm saying? So that's that rapport Mike been talking about. And reporters gotta be like, because I ain't scared. I play ball, so I know what to ask. If I want to talk about strategy, I could. I want to talk about their businesses, I could, because I'll do my research too. So I have multiple ways to go, Vinny. So, in Mike, multiple ways to connect with a guy. If all you got is your little what you wrote out, your little script you got, you're screwed. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll give you an example. In Memphis, they call on you. You have to raise your hand and call on you. There's no open scrums in Memphis. And same in Atlanta too. There's no open scrums. They like, you get the mic. It's orderly. And you know what I'm saying? Now, I ain't gonna lie, guys. Post COVID, I want the mic first. Because I don't get the mic out of everybody on spit. They put a slob on the dang on mic. I don't like that. I don't need that. I want your salmonella, your COVID, all that talking on your damn mic, passing the mic, this joker. I want to get the mic first to get in there. I don't want to catch it. I don't have the eighth guy with the mic. Kind of like with the Pope dying. I ain't trying to share the cup of wine, and communion and mass. I got to be the first guy to do that. I can't be the second guy. I got to be the first guy to hit the cup and not drink too much of it.
Word up. Yeah, word up, man.
Yeah, man.
This is a fun time. Also, I like to say whenever there's adversity, that's when creativity is discovered. And creativity starts to make a shape of its face, and hopefully it's carry on through the adversity, so the younger generations could understand, what actually is going on. I tell people all the time, obviously the saying has been around forever when it says art imitates life. Art imitates life, not the perception. But, when you are, under the guise of all these outlets, you aren't really imitating life. It's a caricature almost. It's devoid of context. It's a wild thing at times. This boy, man. Go ahead, y'all can talk, man. My boy's going crazy in the background.
All right. So, who y'all got coming out the East and West? As we got Boston, Orlando on right now. Boston up 2.
I got Boston, East Boston, brother. Boston and Cleveland in the conference finals. Boston gonna win in 5 games and play OKC.
Straight chalk. Okay. No, that's not chalk.
Yeah, that's the way I see it. I don't understand. If you are a slave to morning television, you only hear about the Lakers, the Golden State Warriors,
and the
Knicks, and Shedeur Sanders. So I have wondered that, and this is what I say about ESPN. It's really something. I'm not really trying to be critical here, but if you have a betting platform, then you aren't going to give your readers or viewers all of the analysis. Or they would have been talking about Jason Tatum as an MVP candidate. Or they would have been talking about the Celtics, coming off winning a championship last year. So if you don't really have that context, is out of sight, out of mind, you aren't hearing the Boston Celtics. In my opinion, they should be the prohibitive favorite behind what OKC is doing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I got Boston and Cleveland. I have out west OKC and the Clippers.
Ooh. Mm-hmm.
I'll be right back.
Yeah. The Clippers are, man, maybe under the radar, they finally get together and do something. So
hey, look, the Clippers blew game 1 in Denver. They blew game 1. And Benny, of all things, Russell Westbrook, the one killed him. Think about that. The irony of that. You made the right play by letting Russell Westbrook shoot, and he made the shots. So you got to live with the result. It is a make or miss lead. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I would have. If I get beat on Westbrook 3-pointer, I'll live with that.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't have been that close to begin with. It should have cleared away earlier. But if I won't get beat, I'll live with a Russell Westbrook 3 beating me over Jokic doing it or Murray doing it.
Right. Yeah. You're exactly right. Yeah. Let's pick your poison and you know, Joker and Murray can kill you, but like you said, you can live, take your chances with Russ. And
hey, Vinny, I'm gonna tell you something. An old coach told me about decisions like that. Some of them are bad and worse. Or do you want to shoot me in my head, shoot me in my heart?
Mm-hmm.
So some decisions are bad, and some of them are worse. In that case, I will sell out to Murray and Joker and Russell. You make a three and beat me, tip my cap to you.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You can't stop everything, Vinny. I tell people fans all the time, you can't stop everything. You have to gotta give up something.
Yeah.
And if I'm gonna give up, I'll give up a Westbrook 3 over a Jokic or Murray 3. I'll live with that.
Great. You all right. So we talk. Y'all both got a Boston repeat. Is that what we're saying? Okay.
I don't. That OKC team is so galvanized. You know how they all when they talk post game, the whole team is there behind whoever the media member is speaking to.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
It's like college.
That's really incredible.
It's like the
so I
college
don't
team.
know. I think OKC and Boston will be a great series because you basically have Tatum versus Shea, and Williams versus Brown. A lot of people aren't talking about Jalen Williams enough. That dude is a Saquon Barkley on the basketball court. He's so big and strong. You see when he drives to the hole, he does not care if a body's in the way. So you're adding that toughness to a team that is looked at as a finesse squad, but they're not really. They have a stellar defense. Obviously, they have big people. Down low, Hartenstein is doing a great job for them. Chet Holmgren is coming into his skin. So that team is a force. I hope they don't break it up at all.
Yeah. Well, Mike, I can tell Vinny does all the time. The second apron's a problem, brother. So it's gonna come a problem eventually with the Thunder too. They've been a small market team, the apron game. Now that they may say we'll go through it and deal with it, but unfortunately, you get penalized in this new CBA. The ears made them sign, Vinny. You got to break up your team because of your players. Now, CJ McCollum and Grant Williams, horrible job at CBA. So you're gonna hurt you like OKC, who drafted well. They can't keep all the guys. Houston, been in your team, can't keep all the guys. Philadelphia, you got 3 max guys with Embiid, George, and Maxey. What you have around them, no scraps. So the CBA limited how you can build your roster, build your team. But OKC, hopefully they can for a while where everybody on team control. But once those Shea and Chet and Jay Williams max deals kick in, the apron is coming, my friends.
I just hope because you made a great point about how the CBA is restricting these teams. I just hope that as with this media deal that they just signed, that it explodes the salary cap to where you can sign, because that $100 million player is coming, and it's coming fast. And when that happens, the floodgates are going to open. There are going to be $100 million players all over the place, and you won't be able to sign the rest of your talent. So that's a shame, because I look at Houston. Houston, to me, with Ime Udoka as their coach, could be an incredible team if they're allowed to play together for 5 years. But they won't get that opportunity.
Yep, that's it. Because you talked about the decisions, and you got to decide who you're going to roll with and who you're going to part with. And, and it shouldn't come down to that, but that's what your franchise hangs on. You can't build. You're just not allowed to build and develop anything.
Yeah, it's not, to me, Vinny, it's not right. You get penalized for drafting well. That's my issue, Vinny.
Because not everybody can draft well. Now, I mean, that's the thing. So,
like Golden State was built through the draft pretty much. It wasn't like all they added was Durant. Iguodala was already there. It was kind of organically built. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Orlando's maxed out Wagner and going back to Banchero. The Suns on a pretty big deal. They can't really do much more in Orlando. It restricts you. That's why I said earlier with Trae Young and the Hawks. If you max him out, building the roster is going to be harder. You know, you got in Miami, Hero and Adebayo on max deals. Everybody else is on. You got to really now. You got to have a big 2 on maxes. Everybody else on between 2 and 20 million have a decent roster and have a complete roster. So Boston got lucky in that regard to have that. Okay, so he drafted well. Boston had Tatum and Brown, but added Horford, White, Holiday, Porzingis, and Hauser and Pritchard to have the balance needed to have a team building the right way. So, but with the second being pretty much a hard cap, it's going to force teams just to trade off guys. Now, Baldy wants player movement and people movement. And he wants parity out the NFL. But what made people tune in our dynasties? Let's be real. In the 90s, and the Lakers and Bulls and the Rockets until kept us entertained. You know what I'm saying? You know, then the lockout happened in 98, then come back, you know, the Lakers come up. Then the Pistons did on the Lakers. That was interesting to see. You know what I'm saying? Then LeBron's run. So I think this man has the wrong view of what fans want to see. And parity, talking about the NFL and player movement sounds good in theory, just the NFL, you're the NBA.
I'm gonna tell you exactly what's going on. That they were basically gentrifying the NBA for global expansion. You know, that's the reason why the Euro ball is so prevalent now. You know, it basically was ushered in with LeBron versus the Dallas Mavericks when he was driving to the basket and kicking out. You know, even though he was having open dunks, I still think back to that. You know, you watch those fourth quarters of those games, you're like, that's really odd. But you know, that is something that has, you know, taken as a force, you know, in the NBA to make sure that the rest of the world is enamored with the game, you know, and they weren't going to be enamored with 80 to 85 to 80 games, which I love. I love those defensive games like that. I don't want to see 153 versus 135 finals. You know, I don't want to see that because points aren't at a premium. They're basically being cast aside for the next point. You know, and then the game really starts internally. You know, as the buzzer is about to sound. You know, so you're missing a lot of the game. You know, in terms of the defense. You know, I'm kind of glad that you know these games here are defensive. You know, a lot of the overs, you know, aren't happening, you know, because the teams are playing defense, especially, you know, late in the third quarter into the fourth. So that's a great thing. And that's the reason why whoever has that talent that is not injured, you know, or tired, or if they are a bigger squad, you know, they're going to win these games. You know, I really wanted to pick Houston. Like I really did because of their coach. And because of the emergence of that Mike-like athlete in Jalen Green, you know, but he just hasn't, you know, stepped to the fore. And I'm wondering what he's going to do tonight because these are the adverse moments that shape a young athlete's career, especially someone as talented as he is. Like he could eventually be the best player in the league, but he has to commit to himself and, you know, the team aspect, whatever Ime is talking to him when he pulls Jalen Green aside. And I hope he's listening because the world wants Jalen Green to explode.
It's right there. You just got to put it together consistently, you know, and not be so sporadic and harness it all. And that's up to him. And so we'll see. So, and how will somebody else benefit from him putting it together because, you know, somebody else pays him or the team's broken up and somebody else might reap the benefits of Jalen Green becoming the Jalen Green that we know he can be. So it's just crazy.
But they got rid of Kevin Porter. You know, he's in what, Milwaukee now?
Yeah, he's the backup point guard behind Dame. Yep.
Yeah. So, you know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. That was one of the chinks in the armor that was being torn off. You know, because even though, you know, they're kind of similar, I guess, in terms of what they do on the floor, I thought that Houston should have kept Porter. Jr. But
yeah,
we'll see how it works out. I mean, they got some talented dudes on that squad, man. It's pretty incredible to have all that talent. It's almost like the Washington Wizards of 96. When he had both Wallaces, Weber, Howard, Calvert Chaney,
yeah.
Rod Strickland.
Yeah.
That team was ridiculous,
Mm-hmm.
and they took that 70-win team to the end of every one of those 3 games, even though they got swept.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously that team was broken up, and that was coached by the senior Bickerstaff.
Yeah.
I would talk to him all the time about that team. He just looks up in the sky and wishes and wonders, that he had more time with that team as it was presented. Because look what happened. I mean, you have Hall of Famers on that team. You had a former Michigan coach. You got Tim Legler, he's sitting at ESPN analyzing games. He's a 3-point juggernaut. You had Tracy Murray. I forgot about Tracy Murray was on that squad. So that was a pretty talented team. But I guess because of the economics, they're like I said, they're really just trying to keep these teams at a certain restriction, because they know as soon as the travel technology takes hold, they're moving to Europe.
Yeah, because Baldy really wants his NBA Europe thing to happen, Benny. He wants it to happen. Baldy's in the Europe. That's why he plays because he loves
the
Europe
in-season tournament. Yeah, this whole
he loves all that UEFA soccer stuff. And I'm like, this ain't soccer ears.
Yeah, that's it. It just keeps the little influx of just infusion this here and this idea. It's.
Hey, Benny, I'm convinced he hates me and Jim Rome the worst, probably. He hates me and Jim Rome the most.
Yeah, I'm sure he does, man. He is. But it's not, he even admitted the All-Star game was a miss. That's the first time I saw him admit he was wrong, but that's not, like Mike talked about, you want to see a little defense, the All-Star game being, 208 to 203. Nobody wants to see that. And when was I went down a rabbit hole a little bit. I went back to like 2009 on some of these All-Star games. It was creeping in then where it was just back in the 80s, they was hooping the whole game, like you already know. But I was trying to, when did it really go down the road that it's on now? I didn't go.
When you stop doing East versus West, when players started to move so much, Vinny, where back when we grew up, guys were moving around like that. You was on your team, you was on your team, so it was East versus West. Like we the Eastern Conference, we on F with the West. You know what I'm saying? So when players start moving so much to where they kind of cross connect, they brothers, you all that kind of stuff. That's when the East versus West pride kind of went away. And, so it was like, hey, I don't see David Robinson every day. I'm gonna bust his, what? If I'm Shaquille O'Neal, Patrick Ewing, you know what I'm saying? So that when those our games was crazy, but when we was younger, that's what I think it happened for me was when guys started moving around so much with East and West didn't matter no more. They want to make team LeBron and team this, team that. That wasn't it either.
Yeah.
I think eventually it's going to get to a USA versus the world. I think that's going to be sustainable because I'm looking into the future now, and I'm seeing teams in Europe. Hopefully they can get all the way to China. I actually think the first place that they should go is Cuba, just because of the proximity. And to show a model of what an expansion team outside of the borders, would look like, and see how, those fans over there in Cuba are rabid about their sports. It's very underappreciated. But, again, as you said, Vinny, growing up, watching Dr. J in 1983 dunk on Artis Gilmore, while Marvin Gaye sang so eloquently, that night. Doc told me so many memories about that game. Then you kind of fast forward, look at Iverson versus Marbury, and then when 98 when Mike versus Kobe. You know, it seems like the NFL, I mean, the NBA was trying to mimic the NFL in terms of branding and marketing its players, but it just went too individual. Like I'm to the point where, you know, this transcends sports. You know, I'm more of a player guy now. I'm not more of a team guy because you don't know who's playing for who at times. Like you'll look up on TV and say, "Oh, I thought he was on another squad." You know, but you know that's just the way sports is now, and it's power to the players. I give them a feather in the cap, and the players' unions who have negotiated, you know, this point of reference where player movement, you know, is, you know, supreme and astounding at times. But you know, again, you know, back in the day, Philly versus Boston, LA versus, Boston, you know, Milwaukee versus New York. You know, Milwaukee versus the Sixers, you know, so many rivalries, you know, seeing that Denver squad with Fat Lever and Issel and Vandeweghe, you know, put up all the points that they did. It's like a different type of feel to the game back then, you know, because, you know, Fat Lever was doing triple-double things nightly. You know, he was very close to averaging a triple-double, you know, back in the 80s, you know, early 80s. But, you know, that team just wasn't marketed as much as it was. That Denver team probably led to, you know, the Phoenix squads and, you know, the Sacramento Kings squads, and ultimately like the Golden State Warriors to what they did. Those teams, you know, they used the jump shot to win, even though, you know, Alex English was down low, posting dudes up at 6'7".
That's it. That's it. Well, man, fellas, y'all come in here and drop all kind of knowledge, and always appreciate it. JR, I know you got, you know, vacation to enjoy since the Hawk season has come to a close. So soak up the sun and do whatever you're going to do and enjoy yourself, man. And we ain't mad at you. Mike, man, I always appreciate you. Just all the stories. I went back after you were on last time and started reading up on Harvey Pollack because you was talking about him and all those great things. Like I think your post about, you know, your interaction with Bill Walton and Jerry West and like Al Adams, all these legends that you got to, you know, meet and know. You mentioned the starting five, your interviews on there. If y'all haven't, go and listen to those. The guest list, the interviews, the content that you got there is unbelievable. Same thing with you, JR, on the radio show, all the archives, the college coaches you get every March Madness. That in itself, man, is unreal. So you guys just, man, appreciate everything and appreciate you sharing tips and knowledge and, you know, ways that you have worked your craft and imparting that wisdom to others. So appreciate you both.
Yeah, you know why I got you on. You know, there's going to be a mass call of Black journalists just to discuss, you know, what we do. You know, I thought that was a nice little segment there where we talked about media. We really want to get a lot of people on the call. So I'll be in touch with y'all. Pass me JR's information, Vinny. You know, so we can talk as regular as possible, good brother.
Yes, sir.
You know, so, you know, we can kind of do things because it seems like there is an opportunity right now to really get out there. And people are thinking that this is something that is restraining, but I see it in the total opposite. You got to break the door down when you see a crack in it.
Yes, sir. And before you go, Benny, like, we need to discuss, like, I'm going to try to get some MLB and NFL stuff going, too, because I feel like both joining players in the NFL and MLB are Black. I don't care if they from a different country. They Black. If they're seeing somebody like them talking to them, we're all Africans together. Was all just where we were dropped off at. We all hit. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna try to get some MLB stuff going for us Black journalists because I feel like we need to be covering that sport too, covering NFL more. But we have to break these doors down as a collective. We can do it together because most of the players that in these leagues look like us. So we need to do that together. So I'm Brother Michael. I'm in, brother. Let's do it.
All right, yeah. Get to Jazz Chisholm, man. Get to them Cruz, Dela Cruz, and O'Neal Cruz.
Oh man,
superstars right now.
They're killing it. They are, man. Cincinnati and Pittsburgh for now. We don't see how long they can keep them in those small markets, but you know the Yankees are waiting. Your Yankees are waiting, Mike. You already know.
We got Jazz, so we might as well get the rest.
That's right. That's right. Well, man, y'all have a good evening. I'm gonna get up here and see if my Rockets
I appreciate, you hit me up and asked me to come on, Vinny. Like I said, at a moment's notice, I'm here. These are always like very good discussions. We don't really know how the direction is going to go when we first get on. But that just from talking, and listening to the experiences of JR, what he has done, especially down at ATL. Arthur Trish?
I sure do.
Okay, that's my man.
Guy when I got there.
That's my man. That's my man. So yeah, I mean, it's great, man. It's great to connect. I do so many of these weekly, and I really appreciate when you and Terry do, Vinny, because it allows me to be natural, on these major, podcasts and radio stations. You don't know what question is going to be asked of you unless they send it in an email prior. But this is a natural conversation. I'm sure that the listeners will appreciate the fact that it is a natural conversation, because that's how everything should be anyway. It just should be talking. It shouldn't be always have to be 3-piece suit, with a knot in your tie and, worrying about, FCC rules. Not that you aren't, but I'm just talking about, sometimes the conversation's flying off the handle. You guys don't do that. It's been like 10, 15 years of me being on this show, right?
Yeah.
And it's my favorite, to be honest. So I appreciate y'all.
We appreciate it, man. Always appreciate you taking the time, both of y'all. And we just keep trying to do better every show, get better every week. That's all me and TV been trying to do, and just been fortunate to run across great guests like yourselves, and not only like TB said, y'all are friends of the show, y'all family of the show. He's talking about his mother. He'll just say who he's coming on, and she'll know what the topic is going to be about. Oh, y'all gonna be talking about this because this person's on. Y'all gonna be talking about that because such and such is on. Mm-hmm. So that's where y'all are. That's where y'all are on the pantheon, the platform, the archive of the show. That's where y'all are, because y'all family of the show. So
I might say it, Vinny, like, I can come on this show and be free. I ain't gotta have on that cloak where I have to be so in that mode, because I that's not who I am, Vinny. I want to have a good time and be free. But when I'm talking about the Hawks, other places I have to be in that little, I can go over here and throw little jokes here, little inside jokes there, and have a good time. Y'all know, I can tell you know the inside jokes I'm saying. So it's like, it's fun. I can just be free here, not have to be in that mode of just stay in this little box here. You don't cross. But here it's more fun. I can be loose and be free, man. Like Mike said, it's a blessing to have.
Oh, we appreciate it. We appreciate y'all, man, for sure. And always an honor to have you both. I'm gonna see if my Rockets can pull even tonight. See if we can do a little better than we did the other day. So enjoy your vacation, man. JR, till the season starts again. And Mike, man, I always appreciate you. I always appreciate you, sir. So can't thank y'all enough. For sure. So we'll put a bow on this episode of Cast Talk Wednesday. TB back to feeling better. He's a little under the weather. He'd been here saying the same thing and enjoying this conversation too. But the listeners are gonna love this one. Thanks to the two of y'all. And for Michael Tillery and Jared Bossman, my name is Vinny Hardy. We'll put a bow on it right there. That episode of Cast Talk Wednesday on the BS3 Network. And we'll holler at y'all next week.